Hello everyone, this is Richards, an RHS developer here, and in this dev diary we're going to be going over a new vehicle for the US Forces, which is the MTVR. This dev diary is going to be a little bit different. We're going to do it in the garage to look at some of the different variants, and we're going to go over the capabilities of the platform. Firstly, MTVR stands for Medium Tactical Vehicle Replacement, which is a bit of a silly name if you think about it, because it is literally a replacement for the legacy medium trucks that were used by the US Marines and the United States Navy that were shared across other branches as well. So the family of all of these vehicles is the MTVR family, and within that family there are different designations. Primarily in the game there's three variants, which are the Mark 23, Mark 27, and Mark 37s. But when we look at the individual trucks, we'll discuss what exactly that means. So to start off, the vehicle itself, here we have a Mark 23. MTVRs in the Marines are typically referred to as 7 tons. The reason behind that is due to their cargo capacity is 7 imperial or American tons of weight. So that's where the name comes from. All right, so first things first here, let's take a look at the powertrain. So MTVRs are pretty unique vehicles. They entered service in 1999 with the US Marines, and they're still being used to this day. They've seen several midlife upgrades throughout, but they have a lot of unique features that separates them from other tactical trucks. So powertrain wise, 6x6. As you can see, 6 wheels, all 6 are driven. Unlike some other tactical trucks, there is no 4x6 mode to just drive the rear. All 3 axles are engaged at all times, so you're always in 6-wheel drive mode with this vehicle. Alright, so we can take a look at the suspension there. As you can see, it's a little bit different from what you'd see on most heavy trucks. Most civilian heavy trucks will use leaf or air suspension on solid axle. However, the MTVR platform was probably one of the first heavy tactical trucks that uses fully independent suspension, very similar to what you'd see on a car. So as you can see there, you have your independent carrier with the diff in the center, and you have coil spring suspension. This is actually carried out through the entire vehicle, so all 3 axles use this independent suspension system. Obviously, the rear axles are a much higher weight rating because that's where the majority of the load on the vehicle is going to be. So that's a really unique feature that will have no bearing in ARMA, but there's some pointless knowledge for you. As you can see, compared to the US Army FMTV or Family of Medium Tactical Vehicles platform, it is not cab over design. It is a more traditional American design with the engine forward. The engine in this case is a straight 6 or inline 6 engine, displacing 12 liters, so pretty big engine. 4-stroke, makes 450 horsepower and 1,550 pound-feet of torque, or about 2,100 newton meters. So pretty significant power. The OEM for the engine, we don't obviously model anything after the real manufacturers, is the one that likes to paint their engines yellow. So take that for what you will. So pretty common engine you can find in a lot of off-highway trucks and other commercial vehicles. With this engine, it is mated to a 7-speed automatic transmission, so no manual in this vehicle. It does have a transfer case, however it's only a single-speed transfer case, so there's no selectable high or low range when you're driving this vehicle. With all that being said, your 7-speed with your 12-liter straight 6, you are going to be able to go highway speed without issue. This vehicle tops out at about 65 miles per hour or 105 kilometers per hour. So that's your powertrain on the MTVR, and that's shared across all variants here. The basic body structure, as you can see, you have your engine forward. This one has an unarmored aluminum reducible cab. The middle there, you have your exhaust, and your intake has a raised intake right above the roof there for deep water fording. Obviously, being designed for the Marines and the Navy, that was a big consideration for the platform. On the driver's side of the vehicle here, you have your diesel. Battery box is right behind it with your air underneath for your air brakes and other functions. As we come around, this one's outfitted for troop carrying, can be used for cargo as well. Pretty standard design. Rear marker lights at the back. You have your glad hands for towing and your tow pintle. On the passenger side, pretty similar here. The big cylinder at the bottom there, that's your air cleaner. And as you can see, I'll just get in a bit closer. Behind the exhaust stack there, that's your raised air intake for deep water fording. And then you have the exhaust in front of that, which snakes under the cab and into the engine compartment. The front of the vehicle, pretty straightforward. You may notice the additional mirrors that have been attached to the front. That's a late modification to MTVRs, being a common product from a major defense contractor. They reuse some of the stuff they developed from other vehicles. So the MATV or MATV MRAP introduced those mirrors for extra visibility on its A1 variant, and then subsequently MTVRs were also fitted with them for the same reason. And then the front, pretty straightforward. You have your headlights, marker and turn signals below that. On the top of the cab are your commercial vehicle marker lights. You have a tow connector on the front on the left side there in case the vehicle needs to be towed, and obviously your tow hooks. So that's the exterior of the vehicle. Let's hop in the cab and take a look at some of the controls. Alright, so we're inside the cab here. Pretty straightforward design, but we'll go over it. So you have most of your auxiliary switches. On the left there, you'll see that panel has different settings: full load, high, partial load, run flat, etc. That's actually your CTIS or CTIS or Central Tire Inflation System controller. So this vehicle is not unique, but pretty cool in the fact that it can reduce its tire pressure and increase it with an onboard air compressor automatically. The hubs have Central Tire Inflation System, so you don't need to manually deflate your tires, which is a lot of work on a six-wheel drive heavy-duty truck such as this. Gauges, pretty straightforward, what you would see in a commercial vehicle: RPM and speed, and then various things: oil pressure, trans oil, air. Obviously, vehicle uses air brakes, so you need to know how much air pressure you have, and battery voltage. Moving on to the center stack here, pretty straightforward stuff. Controls for your winch, different auxiliary controls, engine brake. So obviously, like any commercial truck, you can select how much retard you want. And then to the right of that, that's your automatic transmission controller. So pretty straightforward. Reverse, neutral drive, different modes if you're towing and so forth. To the right of that, you have your HVAC controls. So normal MTVRs without the armoring do not have air conditioning, but ones with up armor do. HVAC, that is just a indicator gauge for your air filter life. And below that, you have your trailer air supply and your parking brake. To the right of that, just a bunch of climate control vents, and further to the right, nothing really to speak of. So overall, pretty straightforward interior, and nothing too much to go over here. All right, now that we've looked at that, we're going to jump into looking at the variants and talking about their different capabilities. All right, so we're in the garage here. This is your Mark 23 A1, which is your standard cargo 7-ton variant. So pretty straightforward capabilities. Primary missions are to transport troops, supplies, and so forth, and that's how it's reflected in game as well. A1, there's no specific importance of that to the player. All that means is an RTAA or ready to accept armor version of the vehicle, which just means it can be fitted with an up armor kit. All right, so let's hide some of the items here. So standard cover, pretty straightforward on most heavy-duty military vehicles. You can reduce the scaffolding and take the benches if you're going to turn into a flatbed. and then obviously your animatable doors. So nothing too crazy there. Like most U.S. Forces vehicles, it's available in desert and woodland camouflage. So that's the Mark 23. All right, now this is a bit of a long boy. This is your Mark 27 A1, which is the extended wheelbase version. As you can see, past the rear axles, there's a huge amount of cargo space. This doesn't increase your weight capacity because the engine, chassis, and so forth are largely the same, but obviously it gives you a lot more room to transport personnel or supplies. In-game, Mark 23 transports 14 passengers in the back and 3 in the cab, including the driver. And we gave this one 18 passengers. Obviously, in real life, you could fit a lot more people. But just based on the game animations and stuff like that, we decided to stick with 18 in the back. And as you can see, it's very similar, if not identical, to how the Mark 23 works. All right, let's look at our final unarmored variant here, which is your Mark 37. This is your HIMARS resupply vehicle. The HIMARS is in-game. It is your mobile MLRS, multiple launch rocket system. So that's your HIMARS, and this was developed later in the fleet life to provide a resupply version for it. So it is pretty similar to your Mark 23. It's a flat deck only. It doesn't have drop sides or anything like that, and you're not going to transport passengers. On the back, it has a 10-ton crane, and the wheelbase is actually identical to the Mark 27, just with the frame shortened a lot. And that's so that it can get the best weight distribution by putting the rear axle as close to the crane as possible for stability. So pretty straightforward version. It doesn't really have any customization options. All right, let's look at the armored variants. So A Mark 23 indicates armored. The armor kit fitted to this vehicle is called the MAS, or MTVR Armor System, an acronym within an acronym, so that's a little bit confusing, but that's typically how things in the military work, and that they're confusing. So as you can see, the up armor kit here provides ballistic protection to the cab. It does include, as you can see, underbody shielding as well for some protection against improvised explosive devices. And as you can also see with the two funny looking antennas, that's your Duke, which is an electronic countermeasure system that attempts to jam RCIED or remote controlled improvised explosive devices. And on the back of the cab right there, basically that is the controller for the Duke system. The reason it would have the two whips fitted is because as ECM, each whip can typically only jam a certain band of the RF spectrum. So by using two whips, it's trying to target different RF spectrums, and based on the threat in the environment, they would actually change potentially the whip, or if they're programmable whip, what frequencies they're trying to target based on what the adversary is using. So that's the ECM. As you can see as well with the MAS, it is allowed to fit the MC tags, which is Marine Corps Transparent Armored Gun Shield, which is the armored turret that's used on a lot of Marine and Navy vehicles, used on the up-armored MLM-51, used on different MRAPs and so forth. And it's also fitted to this platform here, which gives it the ability to fight back, on a convoy operation and stuff like that. So as you can see, we'll go through all three versions. There's no significant changes. Your Mark 27 and Mark 37s, when fitted with the armored protection kit, the MAS, are very similar. And we also have variants supplied that do not have the MC tags turret fitted. So you can see the main difference is that additional mounting supplied above the cab that accommodates the turret. The final version we're going to look at today here is the Armored Mark 23, curiously named Armadillo. So let's have a look at that. You may have seen these but didn't know what they were called, and frankly we don't exactly know what they're called either, other than Armadillo. If there's a more official name, perhaps there is, but we haven't been able to find one. So this was developed during the Iraq and Afghanistan conflicts to basically turn the MTVR into an armored personnel carrier of sorts. So this is an armored capsule fitted to the rear of a Mark 23. We can hide the cover to take a look inside, that provides essentially protected transport for the soldiers inside. So that really transforms this, like I said, from a cargo vehicle into basically an ad hoc APC. And the way we've fitted this one out is fully up armored with the MAS, with the MC tags turret fitted, as well as the Armadillo carrier fitted to the rear. So this allows the same transport of 14 soldiers in the back, as well as 3 crew in the cab. That includes the gunner, so a driver, co-driver, as well as the gunner. All right. That's a first look at the MTVRs. I hope you've enjoyed taking a look, and definitely thank everyone for tuning in. If you have any questions, you can definitely find us on our social medias and ask them, and we'll do our best to answer it. But other than that, we will see you guys and enjoy you having a look once they release. So thanks, and have a good one.